Welcome back. It's lovely to be in your company. This is the AM Report. I'm Ayanda Nyathi. So this week, South Africa experienced the worst violence in its recent history, ignited by the imprisonment of former President Jacob Zuma. But some social scientists say the violence has more to do with the ticking time bomb of economic hardship faced by the majority of people in this country. Author of Thinking the Future and scenario planner Clem Sunter says South Africa is at the tipping point where popular anger could lead to total anarchy. Clem joins us now via our video link for a sense of perhaps what still lies ahead. It's great to have you on the program. Thanks very much indeed for making time to chat to us. So many will say that the situation we've seen over the week gone by has been made possible by a multiplicity of crises, but also the worst is yet to come. Is that a sentiment you share?
No, because being a scenario planner, we are at a tipping point, but we do have the future in our hands, and that's why you don't try and forecast the future. We offer two scenarios. The first one we call people's economy. We want to really get across in this book that people are, absolutely essential in participating in our new economy, which means an entrepreneurial revolution, because work has changed since the last century when big business supplied all the jobs. So instead of talking of job creation, we should talk of business creation and how many new businesses, millions of businesses we're going to create in South Africa. And this moment of desperation would be a very good start, because it has to be a community-led initiative, getting new businesses going. And so I hope that in picking up from the destruction and looting, we're going to create a people's economy. The alternative is the cautionary tale scenario, where, unfortunately, this kind of action leads to looting around the country, destruction, and a situation of total anarchy. But we can choose the people's economy if we build up what has been destroyed in a way that the community participates in, just as they are now in terms of safeguarding the malls that are still standing. You are beginning to see the kind of positive community spirit that is required to build a people's economy.
How much agency, though, do communities actually have in the absence of economic reform and policies that will accompany this people's economy that you speak of?
Well, one of the points we make in this book is that Cyril has to have the same kind of command council that he has for COVID, where he has some of the best CEOs, in particular founders of businesses like Discovery and Adrian Gore, sitting on that panel, and that he regularly goes on TV to analyze the progress we're making towards this economy in terms of reducing our unemployment rate, numbers of new businesses that have been created in each province, and micro-lending facilities being set up, e-stock exchanges, big companies aligning some of their supply chain to nurturing small entrepreneurs. In America, 2/3 of the jobs being created there are in small business. And we've never given that priority and passion to this area. And that's why I want to create an entrepreneurial revolution. In a sense, I call it economic freedom, like Julius Malema. It's just that it's not the state that drives it. It's people on the ground who drive the entrepreneurial revolution. And yes, you do need Cyril at the top giving guidance, but it really requires a transformation of our economy to one where most of the citizens can participate. And we haven't had that up to now. Even before the looting and rioting, we did not have a participative, inclusive economy. We now have to do this, because if we don't, you can see the consequences in what is going on.
Yeah, I'm reminded by the conversations that were being had at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic and how that moment was meant to push us to drastic economic reform. many will be watching our discussion thinking, what is it about this moment now that will finally get to where we need it to be insofar as it moving the decision makers in the direction that you're urging them to go to?
Well, I think that this is much more graphic. You just have to look at the pictures to see how extraordinary this week has been so far. The kind of level of destruction of ordinary malls and small shops. It's much more graphic than an invisible virus. And so I do think that it must have got through to the politicians, but much more importantly to the municipalities and to people on the ground, that, you know, if we continue down this path of having a large part of our community excluded from the economy, this is the kind of consequence that we can expect. And that's why I want Cyril to form this command council, of private sector CEOs to drive this new initiative so that it is very visible, like all the restrictions we've had for the pandemic.
There's no overstating that there are those who benefit greatly from having the economic structure in its current form staying unchanged. In what ways, what incentive is there for those individuals to essentially relinquish power to the communities to, I guess, establish this people's economy that you speak of?
Well, it's very easy. They've just got to look at the television to see what happens to their businesses if the current situation continues. That's why it is very different to the pandemic. You know, in the end, your business is only sustainable if the environment and the market around you is sustainable too. And it is clear from what's going on that that second fact is not at the moment in place. And the only way to restore stability to the market is to embark on a completely new model of a people's economy. And that demands an entrepreneurial revolution. And that is only going to be done through teamwork from the top and from ground up at the bottom.
Thinking the future very quickly is the latest book you've written. There was another one before that, The World in South Africa, back in the 1990s. What was the response to the calls you were making then? And I guess what lessons have you learned in putting together these thoughts?
Well, back in the mid-1980s, I did publish a book called The World in South Africa in the 1990s. And in it, we had two political scenarios for South Africa: the high road of negotiation leading to a political settlement, and the low road of confrontation leading to civil war. And I remember at the time, a lot of people saying, how does your company allow you to go around writing books and giving lectures on a future that is impossible to materialize, because there is no way the National Party will ever sit down with the ANC and negotiate the future. And they did, even before our own scenario team thought it was possible. So it clearly showed that improbable futures can be turned into reality with enough effort being made by people to turn them into reality. And, you know, one of the points we made in that book in the late 80s was that you have a political crossroads, which we successfully negotiated at the beginning of the 90s, but you still had an economic crossroads where you had to free up the economy in the same way that you freed up the political system. Well, we have democracy now, but we've got to add a people's economy to that democracy.
Fascinating insights. Clem Sunter, great chatting to you, sir. Thanks very much indeed for your time. Clem Sunter is a futurologist and a scenario planner. Appreciate your time on the AM Report.